Leslie walks the same route every day, twice a day. Rain or shine, she's been walking this way for years. Except now, she walks alone. That's because Sammy, her golden retriever, just died. They were best friends, and Leslie walked him all the time. Now she feels lost without Sammy. There are millions of people like Leslie who love their pets deeply. Animals can be a best friend, so when they die, it's like losing a person. But sometimes grieving pet owners suffer by themselves without the caring they need, and they end up feeling sad and alone. But there is hope. Anyone who loves their pet will tell you that the bond a human can share with an animal is special. That's because pets love their owners unconditionally and stay by their sides no matter what. You're about to meet some people who recently lost their pets. Hearing their stories might help you to cope with losing your best friend.
I was fresh out of high school, and that was back in the days when American college students were off to see America in the summertime with their backpacks or long hair and flags on the backpacks, sandals and stuff. And I went off to see the country too with my dog Susie. And before I was 20 and before she was 2 years old, we had done over 20,000 miles hitchhiking around America. So as a young lad that I was, and her as a young dog, we kind of did a bunch of growing up together out there, seeing the USA. And it was more than one rainy night when there was no roof that we curled up, me in a sleeping bag and her right on the inside of my curled body there. As the years went by, there was some really special, beautiful times when we realized that certain ages were ending and others were beginning. One of our great pleasures was hiking in the mountains, and there was a very clear year when this was the last hiking up some of these routes we were going to do. And there's a very distinct specialness when you know it's the last time. You may never go up that trail again with your friend. I think of her as I think of my youth. You know, she was part of the greatest part of my life. And I wouldn't trade her or that time of my life for anything.
Oh, he was great, and really was more of my friend than most of the human beings that I encountered through school. Like, I would give up social engagements just because I, wanted to go home and sit and play with my cat and watch TV. And he, he was just the coolest cat. It got really funny. My roommates picked on me because I started renting things that I saw that he had a special interest in, or that he would approach the TV and like whack people, on the face and get real playful with the television. So I figured I would start renting those movies, and he liked a lot of, interestingly enough, he liked a lot of comedies where there was like a lot of slapstick stuff and people hopping around. He was a big Charlie Chaplin fan. When he did die, it was about, it was like about 2 days where he was sick, and then he was just dead, which was hard. It was it was Memorial Day weekend, so I couldn't get a vet to on the phone because everybody was on vacation, and I finally like basically screamed at a nurse at one of the clinics, the vet clinics, that, you know, you're going to see me tomorrow morning. I'm bringing my cat by because there's something wrong with him.
She was someone that I could, or my pet that I could definitely share a lot of feelings with. Of course, she never replied, but she was always listening. She's very forgiving, very understanding. She held a real high position. I just can't say enough about how special she was. It was very devastating. I took a lot of pictures of her, and I had to take down pictures of her because it was hard for me just to look at them. The routine of, for 10 years, I mean, she was just everywhere. She had a little pillow she laid on. She had a certain place in the house she laid. Calling the dogs in to eat, because I had one other dog at that time, and it was just natural to say, Nikki, princess, and you know, just click that there is no princess. And with her, and with all our pets, I think we know they're not going to be with us forever, but I just could never imagine a day without her. She was just so special.
From the time he was able to speak, was able to tell us that he felt that he was a mouse in another life. He was very attached to mice. So everything that he ever had as a child had to have a little mouse in it. And all his books and his favorite songs were all songs about mice. For some reason, that was what he was attached to. His 5th birthday rolled around, or not his 5th birthday, his 5th Christmas rolled around, he got a mouse for Christmas, which was a really, really big thing. And the mouse lived out its life, and was very good about caring for it. And you know, one day I walked in, it was the evening, like about bath time, and I knew that the mouse was dead. We said that Peppermint had died, and that Peppermint was in the box, and he went nuts. I was not anticipating such an emotional and freakish reaction, an intense reaction, but he screamed and cried and you know, was very insistent that the mouse was going to be able to be alive again. And that was really hard on the whole family.
The bond between man and animals is probably stronger in some cases than it is between a person and a wife or a mother or a parent, whatever. It can be so strong that it is really difficult to even measure, I think, in our own minds just how intense that can be.
It's amazing when you talk to pet owners and you ask them why they feel so close to their pets. A lot of them will tell you they accept them no matter what. It's unconditional love. And it would be wonderful if our human relationships were like that, but it's not, I love you if you take out the trash. It's not, I love you if you clean up your room. It's, I love you. They're always there. There's no criticism. They don't care what you look like in the morning. They don't care what kind of a day you've had. You're usually the best thing they've seen all day. And so it's very easy to have that very close relationship where there's no judgment, the constancy, the loyalty that sadly we don't find in many human relationships.
She was half Dalmatian, half St. Bernard. So I had 2 purebreds in one. And somebody told me that she was really what they call a Sooner hound, which was meant to be that she would sooner be with me than just about anybody. Didn't matter where.
just being with him. You know, I would lay on the sofa, and he would he had a special way that he had to lay on my lap. I had to like put one knee up against the back of the sofa and one knee down, and he would come and sit right on the middle, sort of like his throne, I guess. But he was a little prissy, but and just being around him made me more relaxed as you know, dealing with other people. I was really laid back, more so than I had been in a long time with him.
Most people, when they talk about their pets, are always smiling and talking about a special, special place they had in their life. And it may be that the pet was through some really difficult years, whether it was college years or parental divorce years or their own marriage and divorce years or finding out they had AIDS or whatever it might be. Usually there's a unique period of a person's life that they share with a pet, and when the pet's gone, so is that unique lifestyle.
You know, the average life expectancy for most dogs and cats is probably 12 to 15 years. We get some that go longer, but that time frame is enough to really get a close bond, and then unfortunately we live a lot longer than they do.
Well, it was hard. It was really hard. There was the constant, "Where's Susie?" and my constant inability to answer without choking up. So that was a pain.
She died in December on the 18th, and of course we had Christmas things for her. We were kind of really into that with the pets and stuff, and it was very hard. In fact, I have a video that I had taken over like a month before. I still can't watch that. That's too real still. But she was with me all the time. She would go with me everywhere. She was in the house with me. She was my shadow. She was just everywhere, and so much of that's been 3 years, and so much of that is so vivid today. I can just, her eye contact that she made when I took her into the vets, and that one's still hard to deal with.
But it was hard. It was very hard because no one understood, that none of the people surrounding me at the time really understood what I was going through. I called my boyfriend, and his response was, you know, "I'm sorry," but he'd never had a pet and he didn't know.
But there's still so many people who don't understand the close emotional bond people have with their pets, and their intentions are to help the person, but what they say, "You can get another one," comes across as very insensitive. And a lot of clients have talked about how angry they are at having to lie to employers because they knew the employer wouldn't understand, and so they lied and said, well, a family member was sick, because people don't understand.
I think one of the things that most of us guys deal with in these kind of things is the fact that all the women you meet are very anxious to console you, but you're not very anxious to weep. And on the other hand, everybody that wants to avoid making you be in an awkward spot won't ask at all. And the people who do ask, when they realize she's not there anymore, they feel bad for asking. So it's a touchy issue. People aren't quite sure how to deal with it, and I wasn't either. But there was the usual constant, "She's not there."
They'll feel angry one minute, then they may feel sadness, deep sadness. They may also feel relief that the pet's not suffering anymore, and then immediately feel guilty because they're feeling relief because the pet's died. So it's just a whole myriad of emotions, and it's very confusing for owners.
When we lose a family member, you've got all these people that kind of come together, and a lot of times when you lose a pet, it's almost like, I want to be alone because you're afraid of other people thinking that you're a bad person or something's wrong with you for having such emotion over a pet.
Just to be able to, I mean, I'd be sitting at work and I'd just start crying because something would remind me, the frames that I have his picture in, I would see them hanging up on the wall, and I'd start crying because, I had Sonny's picture in that frame, or just anything. It was hard because I'd always find his fur, because he had a lot of fur and he was long-haired, and I'd pull something out of my closet that I hadn't worn in a long time and put it on, and get in my car and look down and be like, damn it, Sonny, and like go to pull the fur off and realize, you know, that he was dead. You know.
For the longest time, I thought I was crazy because I'd get so emotional, just hearing different things or thinking of situations at the time of the year, like spring and the gardening. She always laid just where I wanted to do the gardening, and I would think about how she did last spring.
Actually, there's no right way to grieve. It's a normal process, but it's very individual, and so how one person grieves may be very, very different from how another person grieves. And so there's really no right way.
Don't think of yourself by grieving over a pet that you are a psychological mess, that there's something wrong with you. The bond is there, and it can be stronger than even with a brother or sister or a wife or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so the loss emotion that you're going to be going through, the anger, the denial, all of those things are a natural part of the grieving process.
But, you know, with a child, this is their first, usually they don't have any experiences with death. Their first experience with death is with an animal. So this is their introduction to this, you know, big, scary thing for every one of us.
The best rule of thumb is to be honest and to be open, not try to hide that the pet died. A lot of times parents will say, you know, I could get another rabbit that looks just like Flopsy. And the problem is, children pick up on those things, subtle differences, even if it's identical. They pick up on differences in the animal. They also pick up on the tension in the home and things that are going on. So the best way is to be open and honest and to talk in language the child understands.
As a parent, the thing that is the hardest is seeing your child so torn up and not really knowing if you're going to be doing the right thing and whether the thing that you're going to say is the thing that's the best for his emotional well-being.
A lot of parents want to protect the child from knowing that the animal is ill and is going to die or has to be euthanized. And I try to advise them that they need to expose the child to as much of the process as they can.
And we told Kane that we would have to bury the animal. You know, death is such a hard thing for even an adult. You know, and as we all get older, we are even more fearful of it. But as a child who has absolutely no idea what death is, this was, you know, very difficult to watch this person go through this. And he did not know really what it was, and we had to tell him that you had to put the animal in the ground.
This is the place where Pepper and Patty
One of the things that he enjoyed most is making the gravestone for the mouse and coming up with what was going to be said on the gravestone. And then his dad and he buried the mouse, and that was fine until Kane realized that you couldn't dig the mouse back up and get it out again, which he was thinking that you would be able to do. And so then we had to explain to him what decomposition was.
But parents are going to be blown away with some of the things children do. Young children are very curious about death. They don't really understand it, and so parents need to be prepared for the youngster who comes back in the house after the pet's been buried and said, "No, Mommy, Fluffy's not in heaven. Her bones are still out there. We dug them up." Normal behavior, but something that's very disconcerting to parents. Generally, families who involve children in some type of ceremony to involve closure, children are wonderful about drawing pictures, writing poems, gathering flowers, and I've had several parents tell me that, you know, the kids grieved better than we did and kind of got closure and went on, and we're still grieving, but children really enjoy becoming involved in those sorts of things.
As with any grieving or death, you need to have closure, and you need to realize that you know, that's going to take some time, and it's going to take some kind of chance to say goodbye. And I think that the reason that we, you know, wanted to do that and knew to do that is because you know, it was something that we had done even before we had children when we lost a dog. And you know, you find that you need to do that yourself, not just for a child.
Dealing with euthanasia, most pet owners say, is the most difficult decision they've ever made in their life. And a lot of them liken it and will say, I had to murder my best friend. And that gives you the real feeling of just how difficult that decision is. And so I think it's very important for people to realize that another way to look at it is it was the last thing they could do for their best friend and their suffering.
When they don't die and you have to decide to put them to sleep, I personally, I ended up feeling guilty because she didn't deserve that in a lot of ways. I felt like lethal injections is what we give criminals, and that she deserved better.
Our natural tendency is to want to cling to it as long as there's breath there. And yet they may be in agony because their kidneys are failing and they're toxic, or their liver is failing and they're toxic, and they're in real, just feeling ill, not in pain, but feeling ill all the time, nauseated, can't eat, they're wasting away. And at that point in time, then I think the client and I usually have a discussion about that we've got to love them enough to give them up. And
many pet owners have indicated it was so difficult but very comforting to be there holding the pet when they were euthanized, because the last thing the pet felt was their touch, and the last thing the pet heard was their loving words, and so that can be very helpful.
Went up to the vet's office, spent the morning in the kennel room with her. She was so weak. And then they did surgery and called me in the afternoon and said that it was cancer and it was very bad. And so we decided then just tonight, she never woke up from it.
And the vet knew me. He said he'd come out and give her a shot there in the van. So he came out. Well, he hadn't come out yet. And Susie never did like the vet, so she wanted to stay in the corner of the van where I wasn't. And I said, come here, Susie. And that was one of the things that she didn't do real well when I asked her to, was come here when we were at the vet's. So she was huddling in the corner. And I kind of hollered at her. I said, Susie, come here. Because I'm going like, man, we got 60 seconds here, Susie. You better get here. So she came, and I hugged her, and about that time the nurse got there, and the vet, and they gave her the shot. And in my shock, I wasn't even holding her in my arms when she expired. And I felt terrible about that. And for a long time, I just felt guilty that I had always had this dream that, you know, she would die in my arms, and then she didn't. And that didn't seem fair.
Most pet owners always think, was there anything else I could have done? Could I have done anything differently? And although most pet owners are very, very responsible, do everything they can for their pets, it's something, because the pet's so dependent upon us, that we think about, gee, was there something I missed? I've had owners tell me, you know, if only I had known she had cancer. And so helping the pet owner realize, how could they possibly have known? It's primarily knowing that it's something that you can't rush, but it's something that really, if you avoid it, is going to probably hang around and be tormenting you for a long time in a variety of ways. I mean, people will try to pretend that they're not feeling different ways and sort of stuff those feelings, and then they'll have stomach aches or headaches or things like that. And so if they can find some supportive person Or if they don't have a supportive person to talk to, write. Some people keep journals and will write, how did they feel about their pet before it died? What was their relationship like? And in doing that, they start to realize more and more on their own just how much the pet meant to them, and then how they felt when the pet died, and how they feel now that it's gone. Some way of getting those emotions out so that they can express them, whether it's in written form or in verbal form.
The anger, the denial, all of those things are a natural part of the grieving process, and that don't be ashamed of them.
A lot of people think that if they go out and buy another one, that it can replace the previous pet, even though they may not consciously be thinking about replacing the pet. And I always encourage them to take time to grieve first.
There are some people who can go through those stages in a matter of 24 hours, and that's fine too. But most of us, it may take weeks or months. And we're not ready to take something else into our heart and into our life until we've dealt with the loss of that first pet.
So it's helping the person make that decision when they're ready to form a new relationship. If they're still trying to replace, it's not the best time.
Don't think of yourself by grieving over a pet that you are a psychological mess, that there's something wrong with you. That bond is there, and it can be stronger than even with a brother or sister or a wife or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that.
All my life, I've known just how to smile, to try to fight the tears and hide the pain a while. And all my life, I've known just what to say, how to pass the blame, and how to get away. And all my life, I've known I have a home, a place where I can run and never feel alone. And all my life, I've never been without, but I feel my luck is running out. I've always walked before I learned to crawl. I've always jumped and never worried.